Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. Today, we're discussing how to write copy that positions you as a thought leader. There are subtle nuances that separate the average copy from the excellent copy. I discuss strategies to become an excellent copywriter and therefore an excellent thought leader with my guest, Kristin Sweeney. Kristin is a content strategist who has helped over 100 organizations communicate more clearly, especially when the subject matter is highly complex or highly technical. She's the founder of Every Little Word, a boutique content and communications agency that believes great ideas and the people who power them deserve a bigger voice. Her team builds expert-led content programs in industries like life sciences, higher education, and B2B services. We dive into topics such as the origin of excellent copy, the ever-present blank page syndrome and how to get started with writing copy, examples of copywriting best practices, and the one thing above all else that you need to do to write thought leadership worthy copy, and other golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Kristin, thank you for making the time to be on the Idea Climbing Podcast. I appreciate you.
Mark, I'm so happy to be here.
We're going to talk about writing copy for thought leadership, expert-led content approach. Before we get into the tips, the tricks, the strategies, the tactics, and all that good stuff, when it comes to writing great copy, how did you get it? How did you get so good at it that you do it? Your company does it for a living. How did you get so good at it? Why do you love it? What's your story there?
Oh, goodness. I'll try to keep it short. I did not come up as a professionally trained marketer, but I consider myself as someone who's always been a writer. And for many years, freelance writing was one of many side jobs that I worked while I was an actor in New York City, while I was a yoga teacher in New York City and Boston. And over the course of those years freelance writing, I started to learn more and more about marketing. So what happened for me was that classic kind of situation where you hand over something to a client and then you see that the website copy never got launched or the asset was never created or they're not using something. And I started to ask these questions like, well, what does it take to actually put these ideas and this information out into the world in a way that's going to make impact? And of course, that led me to learning more about the disciplines of marketing and communications as well. So in 2019, my first daughter was born, and long story short, like for so many people, that's a pivot point that changes everything. And I sort of looked at the landscape of my life and my career, and I decided that I wanted to lean into my writing work, my content work. And I guess the rest is history. It's certainly been a range of ups and downs, but I've been running this business as a team for over 5 years and then have over 15 years of experience in the field in general.
So where does great copywriting start? I have a feeling it starts before you open up the Word document to type something. Where does great copywriting start?
So for me, I think it starts with good ideas. Our company's mission is to share great ideas with the world. And the way we do that is through our approach to creating content and copy. But to me, it's all about the thinking that goes into the perspectives and the opinions and the ideas that people and companies can share. Because otherwise, there's no, I like to talk about, like, if we think about the word content, it should mean something of substance inherently. Content, it's like a thing. Instead, I think content for a lot of people and companies has become more of like these containers. And it's a container to try to get somebody to click through. It's a container to try to get someone to stay on the page longer. It's a container to be able to track them, cookie them, and start tracking them. So I'm of the mindset that the great ideas and the substance, the content of content of content is what we're really after.
As far as you just mentioned great ideas, do you have qualifications in your mind about, what makes a great idea? What's the litmus test? What are some characteristics of a great idea that's worthy of creating content around?
Yeah, so I think that a lot of the answer to that is it depends. We have a whole big piece on our website about thought leadership, which is a lot of what we're talking about here, not exclusively, but Great ideas in general tend to come from a place of someone who's taken the time to really develop a unique perspective. And that can come from their experiences, it can come from their belief systems and their values, it can come from understanding their space or their industry and taking the time to think deeply about it. And in general, I think it also comes from a high degree of caring. We've had situations in the past where we've tried to, I'll say, partner with someone as a thought leader, and the fact was they were kind of there to like do their job day in and day out, and they weren't really invested in sharing their knowledge publicly and what it takes to be that kind of collaborator. And those relationships aren't the strongest ones that we have. So I think that caring piece is actually really, really important.
So could you define what makes good as far as a thought leader? What are some characteristics of content? How do you become a thought leader through content? What is it? Copywriting, I should say. When it comes to writing copy to be a thought leader, where does that process start?
Yeah, so I like to think of a thought leader as someone who leads with their thoughts. I know that sounds obvious, but what I mean by that is a lot of people define thought leadership by the external markers, like, oh, they have a huge audience, oh, they have a big following. Again, I think that the ideas come first. So you could be a thought leader alone in your room all day long. The problem is you don't have the right platform to share those ideas and spread them and help them grow and get the message out there. So when we think about thought leadership, again, the kernel of it is making sure that you are developing and forming your own perspectives and opinions. And then ultimately that you're finding the right messages that align with whoever it is you are trying to reach. Are you trying to reach investors? Are you trying to reach customers? Many companies, right? When they think about thought leadership, they're trying to reach customers. Sometimes you're trying to reach peers. So think about folks who kind of sell to their peers, a marketer who sells courses to other marketers. They want to be seen as a thought leader among their peers, who also happen to be their customers. So really understanding your audience and how your perspectives, it's all about alignment, how your opinions, your perspectives, the way you think about the world, how those things align and provide value to the people you want to be speaking with. Um, and I will say that's a little bit different from some common approaches to content where content is generated from the outside and its main goal is to like answer customer questions or answer audience questions, right? Thought leadership can do that, but I like to think of thought leadership as answering questions your audience hasn't even thought to ask yet.
Hmm.
So it's still valuable to them, but it goes beyond helpful into something that is thought-provoking, is insightful, that gives them some kind of shift in the way they're thinking about a particular topic.
How do you figure that out? I love that. As far as if they haven't thought about it yet, how do you think about it to get it to be copy?
Yeah, so the audience hasn't thought about the question yet. So what we do is we really partner with the people who have the ideas. So we are talking with executives, technical experts, the folks who are really in some way, shape, or form leaders in their field. And we facilitate building strategies, having the conversations, and getting some of those super specific nitty-gritty details out of their heads. And then it's our job, because we are content experts, to say, okay, we know what the ideas are. We've pulled them out of that subject matter expert. We know that we need to be reaching somebody over here who has this set of characteristics and this set of things that matter to them. And it's our job to create the content assets and the messages that will kind of interfaces between the two. Because one of the things that can happen with experts is often they struggle to reach the right audience. They have the curse of knowledge. So they aren't really sure how much their audience knows relative to how much they know. They undervalue what they know, or assume their knowledge is commonplace. But often, some of the most basic insights from an expert can be totally transformative for the people they're trying to reach. And so we kind of help bridge that gap and offer that perspective. And that means really assisting soup to nuts as needed with the strategic content creation and execution.
Well, with soup to nuts, let's start in the beginning. What do you do, or what do you suggest people do in that situation where, let's say I found my target market, so I at least know that much. I know who I want to be talking to. I've got the audience down a little bit. You open your computer and there's a blank page staring back at you. Any tips for, I mean, how do you even get it started sometimes?
I'd probably close your computer, to be honest. Pick up a paper and pen. And honestly, before doing that, even, I'd consider like going for a walk. So one of the best things for idea generation is finding the spaces that allow your subconscious mind to work and allow ideas to kind of develop. Going for a walk, going to the gym, doing something that's really peaceful, but something that doesn't necessarily like capture your mind the way like watching a TV show would, for example. So all these kinds of activities that we know are good for us anyway.
Mhm.
Uh, and then really it does start with strategy. So being clear about, okay, I know who I want to reach with my thought leadership. Why is thought leadership the right approach for me? Again, I don't think it's the right approach for everyone. Mostly organizations and individuals who want to build up their thought leadership are in some kind of space where personal relationships, where building trust and needing to earn attention, often from sophisticated audiences, is going to be important. I don't think you really need thought leadership to sell a pair of sneakers, right?
No.
Though you might need thought leadership to show investors how you are forward thinking about your business model of selling sneakers, right? So again, it depends on the audience. So getting really clear on what you're trying to accomplish and then thinking through what are the core areas of your expertise that again kind of map onto value to your audience. And if you're, in a smaller business somewhere where you're doing delivery all the time, you know what those things are. You just have to kind of like take a different perspective, step out. What are the things you share with clients or customers like over and over, little nuggets, the things you say that they go, oh, I didn't know that. And for you, again, seems super basic. But basic is a really good place to start. So that's kind of the ideation process. That answer your question? It's a long answer. I know.
No, that was freaking awesome. It was not, shut your computer was not what I expected to hear. So that was something I didn't even know. You just lived it. That's awesome. So you start creating copy and content. Let's say for like a LinkedIn post, or if you want to go longer, a LinkedIn article,
Mhm.
easy case to give an example of. Do you have recommend a certain structure for copy? I mean, there's the hero's journey, there's all these different things, beginning, middle, end. Do you recommend or maybe a couple? What structure do you recommend for copy so it's not just completely free form writing for 500 or 1,000 words or something?
Yeah, we don't use a specific structure because I do think it really can depend. There are pieces that can be really, hook you in by starting with some kind of personal story. That could be very different from something that capitalizes on a trend. You do definitely want to be following kind of general writing best practices. But what I will say from our perspective on my team, one of the things we really work on is we believe in creating long form assets first. So if you do the work of creating a long form piece of content, an article, a blog, a byline, like um, what that's done for you is it's forced you to really spell out your ideas and get clear on them. It is very possible, go open your LinkedIn feed, to be quippy and clever and not really say anything in a LinkedIn post.
Uh-huh.
Um, and in my opinion, trying to go backwards from, oh, I just put whatever out there on LinkedIn, then I figure out what's working, which could be influenced by so many different factors. And frankly, the algorithm right now is suppressing reach so much that it's hard to know. And then I'm going to figure out what I really think about that topic and go create something longer. That's advice you'll see out there. And to me, it's just totally backwards. Let's think about an idea that matters, build out the case for that idea. It is so much easier to take that and then pick and choose and repurpose and then figure out ways to use that content asset and more importantly, the ideas of that asset across all sorts of different platforms for all sorts of different types of content that support thought leadership.
So once you have a structure, I'll call it a method to your madness. You get some of the points you mentioned, you know who your audience is, and you get going. How do you keep up consistency and not just be that person that posts every 3 weeks, like, oh, I have a bright idea, boom, and it's awesome, and then it's like crickets for 2 weeks. How do you consistently write good copy for thought leadership and keep
Yeah.
on keeping on?
So this is one of the most difficult things. And to be honest, it's something that because I do my own thought leadership content that is hard even for me. And I know all of the best practices and all of the tips. And this is honestly one of the biggest things that we come in to solve for clients and companies is they can't build the structure to be consistent. They can't hold themselves accountable. They know they should, but they're busy and there's a lot of other items that take priority. And frankly, um, this can be intimidating for people. It's
Mhm.
putting yourself out there, it's putting your ideas out there. And let's face it, don't we all go for the work that's easier sometimes instead of doing the hard stuff, even when we know the hard stuff is the stuff that will really make an impact. So um, that is that is often the answer for us is that exact challenge is something that we come in to solve. But I do want to make sure I'm offering some guidance for folks who do want to be, tackling it solo. Um, what I would say is whatever kind of structure you use in your business to keep things on track, treat this the same way. Decide on your cadence, choose something realistic. It's probably less often than you think or than you'd like to commit to, because you are better off building the habit and the muscle of consistency and then increasing over time. It's like going to the gym, like get to the gym. First and foremost, people say like if all you do is like put on your clothes and then get back to
Yeah.
bed, that's day one. Day two, you put on your clothes, you get to the front door, and then you forget it. Eventually you're at the gym, eventually you're lifting weights, eventually your weights are heavier. But that's a process. You've got to give it time. And if you overdo it, you won't be consistent. And then if you use project management software, if you use spreadsheets, like if you use calendar reminders, whatever it is, treat your content like a project and give it the same weight you would any other important initiative in your business. Um, we rely on project management system heavily for that. And we treat every piece of content like its own project. So a set of LinkedIn posts, an article that we're creating. It's got a multi-step workflow. There's 3 or 4 people in our organization who touch every piece of content. And so we have to be organized to make sure we're on deadline and that we can move things through that many folks. But I would say the best things you can do are create structure and accountability around it.
For content, I love that you just mentioned even down to using project management software, but looking at content as a project. Is there certain steps in a project? Is it you sit down, you go through the steps together, or are they or can they be broken down that here's my 5 steps of a project. Monday I'll do this and get a little bit ahead. Tuesday I'll do this, or is it I'm sitting down and getting through this project structure today? Where does it fall,
Mm.
or could it be in between?
It could definitely be in between. So I think the creation, it's like the content creation itself, the first kind of the drafting, the initial pieces, that's going to depend a lot on your own creative process. Um, some people prefer to do it all in one shot. Some people say, I need to go and put it away, and I'd rather work on it a little bit over 3 days or a week. There's a point where that starts to be, procrastinating. But for some people, that process is really different. I know my editor in chief and I have totally different writing styles. She um, literally starts from the first word of the article and writes start to finish.
Oh,
I I don't know how she does it. It's very impressive. I always write the introduction last because it's the hardest part. And I mostly copy and paste and like then I take really messy notes and then eventually those messy notes become sentences and eventually they string together in paragraphs. And like I'm kind of very iterative and often just start somewhere in the middle that feels easiest. So your creative process is really going to dictate some of that. But certainly I think what works for you. What really matters is that you give yourself enough time to hit the deadline. So if you can create content every week for the next week, and you want to do it all on Monday for the following Monday, and that's a process that works for you, as long as you give yourself adequate time on Mondays to do it, that's great. If you need 4 weeks because you kind of drag the process out and that's how it goes for you, then break it up and have each of those tasks, spaced apart. But definitely, I think getting really granular with the tasks can definitely make things feel easier.
That is awesome. And we have covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. When it comes to writing copy and creating content for thought leadership, whether it's reiterating something you said because it's so important, or maybe touching on something you haven't said yet. If someone listening or watching they heard a lot of great ideas. If you were to say, if you're going to do it right, at least do this one thing, at least do this above all else, what would you tell people to do when it comes to creating content and copy for thought leadership?
A great question. I would come back to, it's got to start with the ideas. So figure out what those ideas are that matter to you, what unique opinions you have. You probably have them. You probably don't need to manufacture them. You usually just need to discover them. So going through that process, and I think because what we've seen is when you see people get really excited by those ideas, they're willing to put in the effort for all of the execution that follows.
That is awesome. And if people want to find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
Yeah, so find me on LinkedIn, Kristin Sweeney, Eney, and our website is everylittleword.co.
Thank you very much. This has been great. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mark.
And scene. Done.